Maranatha, everyone. So glad that you could join us for another edition of Apologetics and Prophecy, where we are going to do a prophecy update. And really, as we kind of find ourselves in this weird season where it seems like we're waiting for World War III to break out at any moment. As of I'm recording this today, Israel still has not begun its ground invasion, even though it continues to strike Gaza. And, even as I was looking at my Telegram channel this morning, there's still rockets, being thrust from the north and the south. And it seems like life goes on the way that it is always. And it's going on and on and on and on. And we're just seems that there's this tension that's holding everything back, and we're just waiting, and it's, just waiting for World War III to start. I mean, it reminds me of Matthew 24, 4 through 18, that says, "And Jesus answered and said to them, Take heed that no one deceives you, for many will come in my name, saying, I am the Christ, and will deceive many. And you will hear wars and rumors of wars. See that you are not troubled, for all these things must come to pass, but the end is not yet. For nation will rise against nation, and kingdom against kingdom, and there will be famines, pestilences, and earthquakes in various places. All these are the beginning of sorrows." It's the birth pangs that we see. And for the last 2 years, we've been in this birth pang of wars and rumors of wars, of kingdom against kingdom, and ethnos against ethnos. And of course, Israel is the center of everything in God's prophetic time clock. So it does perk our ears. So where are we going with everything? Well, as of today, it still seems like the United States is, some things are coming out. It seems that the United States is supposedly came to Israel's side, and they seem to be, surfacely protecting Israel, but we find out over the last couple of days that they're actually protecting their own assets. And I don't understand, why would we have military bases in Iraq and we'd have them in Syria, but we would not have any way to protect them. And then they talk about, from drones and missile attacks. Well, that's all there is in the Middle East. I mean, and for, us to have our own boots on the ground in Syria and in Iraq, and not to have protection for them, and Israel has to wait. It's just something doesn't smell right, and it sure is fishy. And, when the media promotes, as of last night, a couple airstrikes in Syria on Iranian targets, pro-Iranian targets, it just kind of makes me laugh that they make a big statement about it. They come out and act like they did this big thing, when this has been the modus operandi in Syria for the last 15 years. There's been civil war there, and it's been a war against the West and the East there, a proxy war in Syria that's been going on. It just isn't in the news. There are airstrikes happening by Israel in Syria almost on a daily basis. And so, the United States strikes a couple bases or a couple targets, and all of a sudden, we have to make this big statement. It isn't going, but what we need to know, as I've been saying over and over again, and which the Bible tells us, that pretty soon the favor for Israel is going to wear out. It's already happening all over the world. And we've seen, if you see this slide right here shows the fake and the real. There is this, the media, or as Mamir calls them, the Midianites, is showing this thing that, it was all the Palestinians have lost all kinds of land. And then, of course, the real below it shows you that it was, it's all a lie, And so, but we can see things are tensioning up. In this other slide up here, you can see we're tracking these PLAN vessels. These are China. This slide right here is China, and we can see that they've got carrier groups in the Gulf of Aden and in the Persian Gulf. And so there are Chinese assets there in the Middle East that are very capable of doing things, including hypersonic missiles. But since the last update that I did, in this slide right here, you can see that the naval assets near Israel have increased. This continues to grow and grow and grow and grow, and it's pretty amazing to me that they are there supposedly just to protect our assets, but who knows what's going to happen, And of course, we understand, though, that the whole world will come against Israel. Here's another map right here of the Muslim nations versus the Jewish nation, just to kind of give you a perspective. The green area, of course, are Muslim nations, and the red little speck in the middle is the Jewish nation. So just as the Bible predicted, we see things happening. And so as we see the buildup for World War III beginning and things continue on and on and on, we're just going to go through some stories of what's going on. This is just another day of waiting. And of course, it's interesting that this is from Christianity Today from just yesterday. Evangelical Mike Johnson raised up as House Speaker. After weeks of jockeying in Congress, Republicans voted in the Bible-quoting Louisiana Southern Baptist. After weeks of turmoil, House Republicans elected Representative Mike Johnson on Wednesday as the new Speaker of the House, an act the Louisiana congressman suggested was ordained by God. I believe that Scripture, the Bible, is very clear that God is the one who raises up those in authority. Johnson said in his first speech after being elected in a 220 to 209 vote party line, he raised up each of you, all of us. Johnson, an evangelical Christian, peppered his remarks with religious references. He recounted the history of how the motto, "In God We Trust," was placed in the House chamber, a rebuke of communism, which many associated with atheism, and highlighted the Declaration of Independence use of Creator. He also noted the presence of Moses on the wall of the House chamber. Through adversity, it makes you stronger, he said, referencing the 3-week period in October that it took Republicans to elect a new speaker to replace the ousted Kevin McCarthy. In a later speech at the Capitol steps, Johnson framed his leadership goals by citing Romans 5:3-4. I was reminded of the scripture that says suffering produces perseverance, perseverance produces character, and character produces hope, he said. What we need in this country is more hope. Johnson has been tied to multiple Baptist churches over the years and currently attends Cypress Baptist Church in Benton, Louisiana, according to the Louisiana Baptist Message. He is also a former lawyer and communication staffer with Alliance Defending Fund. It's actually Alliance Defending Freedom, which later became known as Alliance Defending Freedom, a conservative Christian legal firm. Johnson's victory was celebrated by Brent Leatherwood, head of the Southern Baptist Convention, Southern Baptist Conventions, and the ERLC, or Ethics and Religious Liberty Commission. Johnson served on the commission board from 2004 to 2012. And back when he served on there, that we need to remember and recognize we've been following and watching, enemies within the church. We know what's happening with the Southern Baptist Convention. We know what the ERLC has done, which is not very good. They're sliding into apostasy, and Brent Leatherwood would be some of the spokesmen on that. But, it seems that Mike Johnson is part of the old school crowd, the old school Southern Baptists, and that's what we do. We need to watch. We need to hold them accountable. We need to pray because, the pressure to compromise will be huge upon his head. But of course, we already know, it didn't take 24 hours before the left news cycle was coming out. And exactly, it doesn't matter. If you call yourself a Christian, that's the whole thing about Christianity right now. There's this wave of Christianity that thinks that we can just compromise, or we can be moderate, or, they'll just love us if we're just a little more accepting. And just the title Christian they don't like, because they will come out. Whoever is in the right that comes on it says they're a Christian. It doesn't matter how weak their faith is, they will be attacked. Because it says here, this NewRepublic.com article says, well, we have a speaker. He's an election denier and an extreme Christian fundamentalist. There you go. Already, Johnson previously worked as a senior attorney and spokesman for Alliance Defending Freedom, or ADF, a Southern Poverty Law Center designated hate group that pushes its far-right agenda through the courts. Johnson is also an evangelical Christian who has said, "My faith informs everything I do." This may include his history of using extreme homophobic language. CNN uncovered some of his previous rhetoric, which includes calling homosexuality inherently unnatural and a dangerous lifestyle that would lead to legalized pedophilia and could destroy the entire democratic system. Isn't he right? So we see, there is this division in our country that cannot heal because it's good versus evil, right versus wrong. And if whether you like it or not, whether you call yourself a Christian and you're not saying you're in the fight, you are. You have to take a side. There is no way that you can't take a side right now, because if you call yourself a Christian, this is what they're going to call you. If you stand for biblical truth, this is what they're going to call you. There is no way around it. And so we're just going on and on, waiting for World War III to start. Might start before I even get this video loaded up. But as we continue on, of course, we know that things aren't ratcheting down at all. It may seem like it's all quiet on the Western Front, but it is not ratcheting down. It is actually ratcheting up. We have this article right here. It's from the Times of Israel. It is Hamas delegation, Iranian deputy FM meet Russian officials in Moscow. Hamas representatives are in Moscow, according to Russian Foreign Ministry spokesman Maria Zakharova, or Sarkova. I can also say and confirm that representatives of the relevant Palestinian movement are on a visit to Moscow, she says in a briefing reported by the Russian RIA outlet. The outlet had earlier reported that Hamas member, and I can't pronounce this guy's name, but he's one of the leaders of Hamas, was leading the delegation. She also said that Iranian Deputy Foreign Minister Ali Bagheri Khani is in Moscow as well. So we have Iran, Hamas, and Russia all meeting in Russia. And I know they're not talking about, standing down or let's find a way for a peaceful agreement. No, they're working out their plan to destroy Israel and wipe her off the map. Russia, with her hook in the jaw, is going to come down. It is going to happen. Iran and Russia and Turkey and the North Africa nations are going to invade Israel, and it will happen. And then, of course, Al Jazeera, just from the 25th of October, this report, Hezbollah, Hamas, Islamic Jihad chiefs discuss route to victory on Israel. Hezbollah has had near daily exchanges of fire with Israel forces along the border since the Gaza war erupted. The head of Lebanon's Hezbollah armed group has met with top Palestinian armed group leaders from Hamas and the Islamic Jihad, discussing what their alliance must do to achieve an all-out victory over Israel, according to a statement by Hezbollah. So things aren't ratcheting down. We're just waiting. Things are going on and on and on. And of course, we saw this last week, which is huge because Turkey has to, just when you think things were calming down between Turkey and Israel, Erdogan cancels Israel visit, says Hamas is a liberation group. This is from the Wall Street Journal. Turkish President Erdogan said on Wednesday that Hamas is not a terrorist organization, but a mujahideen, or I forget how to pronounce that, but it says that they're defending their homeland. Israel can view Hamas as a terrorist organization along with the West, said Erdogan, speaking to a gathering of his AK party fraction in parliament. The West owes you a lot, but Turkey does not owe you anything. Hamas is not a terrorist organization, is a group of mujahideen defending their lands, he said to the standing ovation. That term is an Arabic term for those engaged in jihad or holy war. Erdogan also told the AKP Forum on Wednesday that he's canceling plans to visit Israel because of its inhumane war. We had a project to go to Israel, but was canceled. We will not go, he said. Meanwhile, Turkey's foreign minister Hakeem Fidan, speaking in Qatar, accused Israel of a crime against humanity in its campaign in Israel. I don't see them, telling Hamas's crimes against humanity. That's what I said. It's going on and on. These things are ratcheting up. And of course, this I found very interesting, this story, as we're waiting for things ratcheting up. This is from Israel National News, and it's funny because I'm reading through the book of Esther in my personal reading time, and Iranians desecrated tombs of Mordecai and Esther, Jews asking for protection. Residents of the Hamadan province, site of the graves of Mordecai and Esther, demonstrated burned Israeli flags and desecrated the site. In light of the war in Gaza following the Hamas attack on southern Israel on October 7th, residents of the Hamadan province in Iran, where the graves of Mordecai and Esther are located, burned Israeli flags and desecrated the site where the biblical figures are buried. The locals didn't stop there and sent a letter to the Ministry of Culture in which they demanded to turn the place into a public site. They claim that the building should be turned into a museum of the crimes of the Zionist regime, and a public relations office with the Palestinian resistance forces should be established in the place. It's very interesting because I find it interesting because Iran is going to go by way of Haman. If you've read the story of Esther, and you remember Haman tried to destroy the Jews. And I've been reading and posting some scriptures that have fit right into what we see happening to Hamas, that is being, Israel ain't going nowhere. And as much as they want to sable rattle and threaten, eventually they're going to come in, and God's going to step in and do to Iran, Russia, Turkey, and Libya and Sudan exactly what God, or what happened to Haman. And Haman, of course, and all those that were out to get and destroy the Jews because they wanted to wipe the Jews out. This is all a satanic thing. And stories like this open my eyes and realize that they don't even see what's going on. If they were smart, they would turn and run. They would protect themselves. They would not continue to try to fight against God's people. But, hey, it's going on and on and on. We're just waiting to get that buzz, that pop-up that tells me, hey, World War III has begun. Now, we know it's going to happen. But right now, as of today, and this is one of those stories that when you put it into context, start to make you go, because as of I think it was yesterday, or was it the day before yesterday? I'm not sure. This guy in Maine went on a shooting spree. And of course, we have these people in the United States that are, going around and doing these mass shooting or mass killing. And of course, everybody's blaming the guns. But we're going to take an interesting look at this. And just by way of reminder, the Fox News article as of last night, Lewiston, Maine mass shooting leaves 18 dead as manhunt underway for suspect Robert Card. Maine State Police say suspect Robert Card carried out a mass shooting in 2 different locations, leaving at least 18 dead and 13 injured. The mass shooting took place in Lewiston at a bar and grill and at a recreation bowling alley just 4 miles away. So this guy went on a shooting spree, and as of this morning, they went to surrounded his property, and he might have drowned. They're searching the water right now. Somebody heard gunshots, so they're kind of really just looking for him right now. He's still on the run, but I don't know we don't really know, but it seems their thought is that he killed himself, and so but we will find out. But this Gateway Pundit article that came out, I find very interesting, and just bear with me. These are things that make you go, And you and I that are Christians that understand there's a Luciferian, deep state, globalist agenda that is not on our side, that is purposely doing evil. When we start to remember those things and we see stories like this, and then we kind of connect dots. We kind of can uncover something. It's like accidental truth. The story is right there in front of us, because you can't really believe everything that they're telling us. But the story is like right there in front of us. And this, of course, is a Gateway Pundit article. It says the family of Robert Card, the man accused of shooting and killing 18 people in Lewiston, Maine, have shared several details with police about Robert's acute mental health episodes the months leading up to the mass shooting. In an exclusive report, NBC News' Katie Card, who is married to Robert's brothers, shared that Robert began to hear horrible voices talking about him just shortly after he was fitted for high-powered hearing aids. Katie Card told NBC he was picking up voices that he had never heard. She continued, his mind was twisting them around. He was humiliated by things that he thought were being said. Now, somebody brought this to my attention on Telegram, and I did some research. I went and dug to make sure, but before we go into that, just take a listen to the common theme in mass shootings in recent history. In 2003, the shooter today in Maine, he complained of hearing voices in his head. And we know, as I'm a pastor, I'm a Christian, I understand the demonic influence. I understand that most of these will probably demons, because the enemy is out to kill, steal, and destroy. He wants we know from, just from being a pastor, we understand that demonic possession is real, and that people that hear voices, they're demons that are speaking to them. But very interesting, though, and it is a common theme. In 2013, a man took 3 hostages at a bank in Louisiana, killing 2 before being killed by cops. Months earlier, he was interviewed by the FBI and the DHS. He told them that he was hearing voices. Congressman Allard Lowenstein wanted to reopen an investigation into the assassination of Robert Kennedy. Lowenstein was killed in 1980 by a man who said he received messages in his head broadcast by a CIA transmitter. In August this year, a guy murdered 2 kids, one of whom was a TikTok star, on a date in a movie theater in Corona, California. He said it was precipitated by voices that he had started hearing about 8 months earlier. Then on September 5th, 2021, a Marine killed 4 people, including a baby, in Florida. His girlfriend says that he developed the belief that he could talk to God over the past week or so, hearing voices that were telling him to do this. Noah Green, the guy who rammed the Capitol police officers, said he believed the federal government was targeting him with mind control. Jared Lautner, the guy who shot Gabby Giffords and killed 6 others in Arizona, remember a few years back, told a psychic that he had heard voices compelling him to violence. Connor Betts, who murdered 9 people outside a bar in Dayton, Ohio, heard voices in his head from childhood on. And it continues. Aaron Alexis, a former naval reservist and computer contractor, heard voices in his head that he attributed to extremely low-frequency electromagnetics prior to killing 12 people in Naval Sea Systems Command at Washington Navy Yard. Nicholas Cruz, the Parkland shooter, said he heard voices for most of his life that pushed him to violence. Tamerlan Tsarnev complained of voices in his head telling him to do bad things just before the Boston bombing. Remember that? Paddock said that the government could hack his head and control him. Esteban Santiago Ruiz complained of voices in his head and claimed the CIA was forcing him to watch ISIS videos before he killed a bunch of people at an airport. So we know that the government, remember we've talked about the MK Ultra. They had the MK Ultra, of course, Operation Paperclip, all of these things that led to a lot of the CIA's experimenting on things. Had one of their division was voice to skull, voice of God technology. But it's real. And it's been around since 1974. And this was nearly 50 years ago. I went and did some research because they're talking about silent sound mind control techniques that put voices in people's heads. And you think I'm crazy, it's conspiracy theory stuff, but hey, just do the research yourself. It's there. This website says new military occult technology for psychological warfare. We know that the military, with the UAP, UFO stuff that's being exposed right now, has been doing deals with the devil. I did a whole teaching on this. There are segments of our military and our government that are involved with demons, and they're listening to them. And I believe that some of the deep state, shadow government that's controlling a lot of stuff in our world today are being controlled by these things. But look, this is silent sounds technology, mind control with silent sounds. The mind-altering mechanism is based on a subliminal carrier technology. The silent sound spread spectrum, sometimes called S-Quad or Squad, was developed by Oliver Lowry of Norcross, Georgia, and is described in patent number 5. The patent numbers here. Silent Subliminal Presentation System, dated October 27th, 1992. The abstract for the patent reads like this: a silent communication system in which non-auroral carriers in the very low and very high audio frequency range or in the adjacent ultrasonic frequency spectrum are amplitude or frequency modulated with the desired intelligence and propagated acoustically for inducement into the brain, typically through the use of loudspeakers, earphones, or piezoelectric transducers. 5G, you guys. The modulated carriers can be transmitted directly in real time or may be conveniently recorded and stored on mechanical, magnetic, or optical media for delayed or repeated transmission to the listener. So this has been around since 1992. There was also this other article that I found that talks about... and all of these things are available on my website and app, Calvary Solid Ground. I put these links, this paper that I'm looking at with the website links. You can go look at this stuff yourself if you want. But this article says, I became aware of Alan Frey's work at Willow Grove in 1972, just after completing the holographic concept of reality. I was working with Dr. Carl Schweizer, MRU at the time, and was asked about the significance of this work. Realizing its possible use in mind control, my first reaction was to go on red alert. Full significance was not yet understood at this time. Basically, Frey had discovered another sensory motor input into the higher blue band frequencies of 0.3 to 3.0 gigahertz, which 5G uses gigahertz, by the way, at very low amplitudes of power. It was as if we had another type of vision, but did not know how to see what was being received. It constituted the next generation of subliminal communications. My work at the time was involved with an AI. Hello, AI. How long have we had AI? People think that, it's a brand new technology. Trust me, the military, what you see out in the open today is 30 years behind whatever the military and the deep state and the shadow government have. So they've had AI for a while. This article's an old article. And so here we are talking about an AI database for paranormal references. This was called Project Paraphile. The government has been working on occult stuff for a long time, especially through the CIA, since the 60s, you guys. This is nothing new. A second paper was also presented at Omniversal Symposium, California State College of Sonoma. This was September 29, 1973. It was titled Embryonic Holography and was an application of the holographic concept of reality model. It dealt with biogenesis and the neurological regeneration and included speculation of the origins of cancer, faith healing, psychic energy, and more technical aspects of mind-body energetics. So, these things the government's been working on for a long time. And not only that, but private industry. we have this one article that I looked up there's a list, and this is a private website that gives a list of the different patents that people have made that deal with directed energy weapons and targeted individuals with these sonic things and different types of subliminal mind control technique devices. And this other article right here, this is the U.S. Archive. These are 40 mind control patents. And then these are 40 mind control patents. And I just listed 4 of them here just to give you an idea. And like I said, you can go look these up yourself. This is a U.S. patent for an apparatus and method for remotely monitoring and altering brainwaves. This patent was made in 1974. Here's another U.S. patent, hearing system, microwave hearing via open air broadcast in 1988, using microwaves in their hearing system. And then in this other one from 1998, communication system and method including brainwave analysis and or use of brain activity. This is called remote viewing, or psychic ESP, something the government has been working on throughout the 90s. This patent was a private patent in 1998. And then in 2004, there was the RFID tracking of patient-specific orthodontic materials. There's patents that's been around for 20 years of where they can put RFID tracking into your teeth or into your mouth. And so just trust me. And we have this other article. And as you can see from this picture here, silent mind control explained. And this is from a patent that was issued in 1992. And it shows that, it shows the tones right there, 1 and 2, frequency modulator, voice control frequency. And the output sounds like, ringing in your ear, but with hypnosis embedded. And then the brain can hear the voice and understand, but ears only hear a tone or a buzzing and ringing. We've been talking about the death shot, okay? And the graphene oxide and its response to electrical stimulation in the 0.3 to 3.0 gigahertz range. This is stuff they've been working on for a long time. They've got 50 years of this stuff. And so is it just, demons speaking to them in their voice, or has the government, and we don't want to think people are that evil. Would they really do these things? I think they are. I think to get control of your guns, to get you under the umbrella of the one world government, I think the Luciferians are very, 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 very possible could do this. And we have to ask ourselves, and the world wants to let Elon Musk put chips in people's brains. You think that this stuff this stuff has been around for a long time. It's just coming out mainstream now. And it's been around for a long time. And don't think that it isn't possible. When you hear stories like that and you start to put them together and you start to understand where this world is going, that we understand that there is an end game, that there will be an antichrist that will control the whole world. How is he going to cause everyone to take a mark? How is it that people that are, reasonable thinking people really going to worship this person as God and be willing to align themselves with him by taking something on their hand or their forehead? Hey, the Antichrist is going to be the counterfeit of Christ. Christ is all-knowing. Christ is all-powerful. Christ is present everywhere because he is God. Satan is not. So in order for him to be able to, God can read our thoughts. Satan can't, but with technology, he can. See, these things, you need to really start paying attention to these things. They're there for a reason. We're not, don't listen to everything you hear. Don't listen to what the news is telling you, because you can listen to some of these stories, but you have to look for the accidental truth. You have to look for what they're saying, what they really mean. It's called reading between the lines. And as a Christian, a born-again Christian who has the Bible, that understands that certain things have to happen in the world and the heart of man and all of those things and our worldview, when we look at those things, we start to see the pattern. And I just showed you a pattern that I was pretty shocked to see. But then if we see things moving in that direction, if we really believe that these globalists want to do something like this, then it shouldn't surprise us to see this electionform.org article. Hillary Clinton, re-education camps for conservatives, libertarians, and Christians. Should you be forced into a re-education camp because of your personal beliefs? Re-education camps are now being the radical socialist solution to transform our culture, economy, and politics. Now, Hillary Clinton is advocating re-educating anyone who disagrees with her radical socialist agenda and policies. That goes for political opponents as well as the public, including conservatives, libertarians, and Christians. This is new to America, but not overseas. Free speech worldwide is under assault. It's been happening in communist China. It's been happening in Iran. It's starting to happen in democratic countries as well, as we've seen in Europe and of course, Canada. And here's an example. For example, Canadian college professor and TV personality Dr. Jordan Peterson was told he must complete mandatory social media retaining for referring to transgender Hollywood actor Elliot, formerly Ellen Page, by female pronouns and saying the actor was converting children by posing for Esquire, and for his continued criticism of Canadian Prime Minister Justin Trudeau. He is, and he was. This is the truth. This is happening in Canada. The College of Psychologists of Ontario confirmed they were investigating, saying it had released a decision requiring Peterson to complete a specified continuing education or remedial program. It's called SERP. The program is designed to address issues regarding professionalism and public statements. They claim Peterson allegedly harmed people with his views. See, you have to be re-educated. Judges in these countries are now ordering people to undergo re-education therapy or government or college coaching programs for language used in public statements that are considered degrading, demeaning, or unprofessional by government bureaucrats. Anything that you preach out of the Bible, anything that we say in this podcast would be deemed exactly that. But could it happen in America? So far, our First Amendment is standing in the way of the radical socialists and deep state bureaucrats' plans to reprogram extremists, as they do in communist China and other countries. But that doesn't mean they won't stop trying. In a rare interview moment, Hillary Clinton let the cat out of the bag about the radical left's plans for anyone who doesn't disagree with their ideologies or policies. During a recent interview with Christine Amanpour on CNN, Clinton called Trump and MAGA, Make America Great Again supporters, extremists who can't be reasoned with and can't work together to find common ground. For those extremists, Clinton suggested that there could perhaps be a formal reprogramming of the cult members. You MAGA supporters, you cult members. She also said we, the Democrats, need to empower the right people inside the Republican Party. In other words, she wants to control which Republicans are elected, namely rhinos, who will reach across the aisle and work with Democrats. Not only does she want to reprogram the minds of over 85 million Americans for not thinking the way she does, but she also wants to ensure only the right Republicans, the ones that agree with her, get elected. Clinton is the perfect example of the ultimate radical ideological government swamp creature protecting the swamp. Hillary's comments remind me of a quote from George Orwell's classic novel, 1984. Every record has been destroyed or falsified. Every book rewritten. Every picture has been repainted. Every statue and street building has been renamed. Every date has been altered, and the process is continuing day by day and minute by minute. That was from George Orwell's 1984. And of course, as this picture says right here, when we're talking about all these things, they said Noah was a crazy conspiracy theorist. Then the rain came and the fact checkers drowned. So when we talk about these things, people might call me a conspiracy crazy nut. But I have to agree with J.B. Hickson that there is a planned, concerted, Luciferian effort that's been going on for centuries to control people by forming this one world antichrist government that's being formed before our very hands. And of course, we see, and we talk about these things, they call us conspiracy theorists, but it's so obvious that there is a two-tier system of government going on in our country right now with this ZeroHedge.com article from yesterday. Prosecutors livid after FBI refused to pursue credible Biden-Ukraine corruption allegations. Grassley reveals 40 informants. So you wonder why they have all this, they make a big deal about 2 airstrikes in Syria, like we haven't been doing that forever. And we move all these carrier groups and make our support for Israel and travel over there to kind of get the news off of what's really happening in Congress. And now that there's a Speaker of the House, all of these things are going to gear up into high gear. But they're finding that there is, possible corruption. And it says, while January 6 protesters languish in prison for participating in a Fed-filled march on the Capitol, I'm still waiting to hear about all these people that are going to get 22 years for marching in the Capitol for their pro-Palestinian march. I haven't heard nothing but crickets. The Biden family sits pretty atop their ivory tower as the FBI covers for the multitude of obvious crimes. In 2 bombshell reports from Just the News, we learned that not only was a prosecutor livid over the FBI's reluctance to pursue credible claims of corrupt Biden dealings in Ukraine, the thing Democrats impeached Trump for even asking about. The agency has evidence from more than 40 informants spanning years of investigation, which DOJ and FBI officials sought to undermine. Senator Grassley revealed in a Wednesday letter. So, they keep having all these things to kind of brush all the, they want the news cycle filled with, and what a better way, proxy war. Look, we did some airstrikes. Don't look, nothing to see here, folks. And so it shouldn't surprise us. Two-tiered form of government. And then, of course, we know that things are continuing to heat up. We have this one article, weapons flood West Bank, fueling fears of a new front with Israel. Iran and its allies operate a smuggling operation that crosses hundreds of miles and at least 4 borders as part of an effort to broaden Palestinian military capabilities within Hamas. And just last night, they did operations with tanks and bulldozers into Jenin and the West Bank, where all of these, they're being armed by Iran, and so Israel has to defend herself. So, but that's, and of course the UN general. We have that news story that happened last week when the Secretary General says that Hamas attack didn't happen in a vacuum. A furious diplomatic spat between Israel and the United Nations has broken out, with Israel officials calling for the resignation of Secretary General Antonius Guterres as a globalist after he said Hamas October 7th attacks on the country did not happen in a vacuum. As a Security Council meeting, Guterres called for a humanitarian ceasefire on Tuesday amid the deepening crisis in Gaza and told the Security Council that clear violations of international humanitarian law are being witnessed. He called Hamas's October 7th murder and kidnap rampage appalling and said nothing can justify the deliberate killing, injuring, and kidnapping of civilians or for launching rockets against civilian targets. It is also important to also recognize the attacks by Hamas did not happen in a vacuum, Guterres said. The Palestinian people have been subjected to 56 years of suffocating occupation. They have seen their land steadily devoured by settlements and plagued by violence, their economy stifled, their people displaced, and their homes demolished. So we understand that all eyes are everybody's going to turn their back on Israel. This might happen. We might still see some voices that stand up, but there will come a time when the whole world will turn its back on Israel. And as I said at the beginning of this, on and on it goes, on and on it goes. This defense.news. We need to remember that Pakistan as is a nuclear power. Pakistan test fires Abadil nuclear missile. Pakistan has test-fired an Abadil missile capable of carrying multiple warheads that can attack different targets. Pakistan last tested the multiple independently targetable re-entry vehicles capable weapons on January 24, 2017. But this new one is a new test that they did that can carry multiple warheads at once. And trust me, it can reach Israel. This is an ICBM, you guys. And what is Pakistan saying? And, of course, we'll end with this article today. Pakistan says failure to implement two-state solution core issue behind Palestine conflict. Pakistan's Foreign Office on Thursday called for an immediate ceasefire and an end to the siege of Gaza by Israel, saying the core issue behind the conflict was the failure to implement a two-state solution. And, of course, they've been talking about how they're going to support Israel, support Pakistan no matter what. And so here we are. It's on and on. We're waiting. And of course, this broadcast could be interrupted by World War III. They keep telling us the ground war is coming, and it hasn't come yet. And we sure see a lot of lineup. But it shouldn't surprise us. We need to understand that these things are going to happen. We have to remember in 1 Thessalonians chapter 5, verse 4, it says, "But you, brethren, are not in darkness, that this day should overtake you as a thief." That's the day of the Lord. That's going to start with the rapture of the church. And so Paul had just got done teaching the rapture in 1 Thessalonians 4, then talking about this concept of Jesus coming as a thief in the night. That's where he's picking this up at. And that day of the Lord will happen will begin at the rapture of the church when Jesus comes again. Jesus reminded us in chapter Luke 21, verses 34 and 36, but take heed to yourselves, lest your hearts be weighed down with the carousing, drunkenness, and cares of this life, that day that we just talked about come upon you unexpectedly. For it will come as a snare on all those who dwell on the face of the whole earth. Watch therefore and pray always that you may be counted worthy to escape all these things that will come to pass and to stand before the Son of Man. And of course, there's nobody's worthy. Our worth is found in our faith and trust in Christ and the finished work that he did for us on the cross, dying for our sins and then showing us by rising again from the dead that God has accepted that sacrifice on our behalf, because he who knew no sin became sin for us, that we might be made the righteousness of God in him. We find our righteousness in him. Our worth is found in Christ, in your faith and trust in Christ. So make sure as we see these things approach, as we see these things happen, that you're right before the Lord, because the Lord is coming again soon, and you and I need to be ready. He says to watch therefore and pray always. We need to be looking and reading between the lines, seeing the accidental truth, knowing all of this is going someplace, and that there's something restraining all hell from breaking loose on this earth. And we know from the book of Revelation that will happen after the church is raptured again. But doesn't mean that we won't face hard times as Christians. We saw reading, Hillary Clinton serious about re-education camps for Christians. You need to change the way you think, and this is just the preparatory. This is the foundation or the platform for the Antichrist that he will use. Mind control techniques. He's going to try. He can't be God without the use of technology. And so the CIA, the deep state, the Luciferians, they've already got this technology. And could they be testing it, using it in people? Are they evil enough to do that? I think they are. I think Satan is an evil person. His desire is to kill, steal, and destroy. I think he takes pleasure in war. I think he takes pleasure in evil and terror and fear across this country. I think COVID was a field day for him, as the whole world was in fear of this virus and willing to give up their freedoms. And man, he was just laughing all the way to the bank. But you and I who are in Christ need to understand that God wants us to take heed to ourselves and not be weighed down by those things and let fear conquer your heart, because the fear, what's coming, will be a snare of all those on the earth. But you and I are to pray always, because we know that we are going to escape these things and we're going to stand before the Son of God. So with that said, I want to thank you for watching today, and just look up, know that your redemption draws near. And as I start every broadcast, Maranatha. If you have been blessed by this podcast, please subscribe and share to help get the word out in these last days. If you'd like more information or to contact us, please go to calvarysolidground.com. God bless you.